talking about in terms of austerity here.
And I appreciate that. And that's why austerity alone is not the solution. I do believe we have to decrease our spending. But the common thing that will get us out of here, that will take care of a lot of the revenue problem, is if we grow the economy. And we get people back to work. You get more people working, first, you get them off the system, which is causing these costs. Second, they're contributing to the economy.
Yes, New Deal.
There we go.
The New Deal did it once. We could do it again.
The problem is we're running out of credit. Here, ma'am.
So I'm hoping before this ends that we can talk about natural gas.
We have two major topics I still want to get to when I can get
But
control
we're
back.
going to end, but this is a very local issue. The economy, the debt is like.
We're going to go over this. We're going to go over. I promise you we're going to go over.
The two major issues.
And you are very prominent in that committee.
Yeah,
Ma'am, the two major issues that I still want to make sure we get to, and we'll try and get to any side ones, but these are the ones that we had a lot of questions on, and we're trying to do in order. But the two ones we still have to do are student loans and natural gas development. So
And what time are we stopping?
we're going to go over.
we're going to go over. We'll get to at least those two areas because I'm sure that's, as Joe says, one of the big things there. But I want to continue on this conversation because there are different economic philosophies that are faced in our country. There are different economic outlooks, and you raise conclusions and say they're all wrong. Well, I could argue the same. There are studies out there that say all the data you rely on is wrong. But we're not going to do that. What we're going to do is say, okay, where do we agree? And in those studies, there's a common denominator, and that is the growth of the economy. So why don't we focus on coming together and focusing on that? And whatever reason why you want to do it. If it's because you want people to have the New Deal experience and the great opportunity of the American society. If it's because you want to deal with the debt crisis like I do so that our kids have a future in America and an America that they can prosper in. It doesn't matter. We're working towards the same goal. And we both agree it's a good goal. Why don't we work together to figure it out? That's what I try to do in Washington. That's what we're continuing to try to do.
I would just like to add that 20 billion in increased border enforcement is not helping bring our debt down.
Okay. So let's do what it says.
I do want to, any questions that don't get answered, I'm saving all of them, even topics we've covered, and we'll get a response to you. Anybody that left enough contact information can get a response. Student loans. We're on obviously, as was mentioned, a major research university campus. How did you vote on the extension of the subsidized student loan rate this past summer, and why?
We support it. I'm glad we were able to take care of the interest rate spike. That is one thing I do believe in, it's education. That was taught to me very young, talk about street smart. My mom and dad, before my dad passed away when I was 2, raising us 12, they made a deal that each and every one of us was going to get some type of college degree or advanced degree. I got the law degree. My one sister has a vocational degree where she cuts hair. Great career, does very well. In the sense that food on the table, food go ahead, and all those things. So big believer in education. That is huge. And so when we saw this potential threat that is coming out, and also saw that students were being utilized as political fodder in these debates and used in D.C. for political gamemanship, to me I was very interested in getting D.C. out of the equation. And that is where the proposal that went through the House, supported by the President, ultimately supported by the Senate, we came to an agreement and we took care of it in the way that we did. And we supported it. And we were out in front of it. And we were a voice to say to our guys and to other guys to reach out and find alliances to say, we need to get this taken care of. We cannot let it go over the student loan cliff and have people that are going back to college as we speak today, as you know, at this institution. We need to make sure that they have the ability to get to school. So.
On that point, as a student, speaking as a person running question, as a student relying on Pell Grants, how do you justify your support of the Ryan budget? Without the money from this program, myself and many other students would not be able to attend the university of our choice.
It's a great question because it gets to the fundamental debate that we're going to delve into come this fall and also in the upcoming foreseeable future. And what the question gets to is what are our priorities? Our priorities as a nation. I expressed to you one of my priorities is education. But when you're running the debt loads that we're running, And that is a proper debate. That is a debate. Is Pell Grants the best tool to get kids a college education?
Sure.
Yeah, it's an asset. It's part of a program that could potentially be reformed, could be looked at. But because we're dealing with the economic pressures of the budget and the national debt crisis and everything else, it has to be part of the conversation. But what are we going to give in order to maintain that? And what is the priority that we have across the country? And that is the multiple arena of voices, the cacophony, as someone once said it.
Your predecessor.
Well, the voices that come in that we got to have an open and honest debate on across America. So, is this part of the process? Yes. And is it something that we need to continue to talk about how to make education accessible and affordable for people? Yes. Now, I will tell you, I've had conversations with administrators in this institution, and we have a lot of higher education institutions. And I asked the question, why are college costs as high as they are? I had a presentation in front of the Ways and Means Committee by an IRS study that went through and did a study of all the salaries of the administrators. Do you know what the highest paid folks generally are in higher education institutions?
Coaches.
Football coaches and presidents, and also investment managers. You know the portfolios and the endowments? Typically, they're number one. Do you know what they make? $1 million plus. $1 million plus. Now, you may want to defend that. You may want to, argue. But when you also, if you're defending that, and then you're attacking guys on Wall Street, and the other guys are making millions of dollars, how do you reconcile the two? So the question I ask is, okay, are you worth $1 million? Let's put that out to the American people. Let's put those reports online. Let's put some sunlight on it. Let's put some debate on it. Let's bring it to the students of those institutions that are paying the bill and say, do you think your football coach should get paid $5 million, $9 million? Do you think your investment manager for your endowment that you may or may not be receiving a scholarship from should get $1 million plus? No. Those are the conversations that I'm not seeing on college campuses. So then the other question is what are the other costs? Healthcare is a big cost. And that's why we got to contain these costs and drive these costs down. The other thing is obviously there's this need in higher academia that I'm seeing to invest in the institutions and the infrastructure of the institutions. And I'm a believer in that investment of infrastructure. But to what extent? And sometimes we've sort of heard stories of people making investments in the Taj Mahals, if you would, of these higher educational institutions. Having all the bells and whistles, the big gyms, the big auditoriums, the big swimming pools, the big campus grounds, the big dormitories and things like that. There's a need for that infrastructure, but is there a need? Now, when I ask the recruiters and the administrators, why do you do that? It's because, well, that's what everyone expects, and we're competing against everybody. Oh, okay, but we need to put some sunlight on it. Yeah.
There seems to be an assumption that there's only one way to get an education, and that is to go to college for a continuous period of time and to do nothing but that during that time. Many people have received their education by going to college for a short time, working, earning the money for the next segment, and then going back and spreading it out so that they are in control of their education rather than having to rely on what turns out to be the beneficence of others. I don't understand why there cannot be an alternative view of how you acquire your education.
Very good point. Thank you. All right.
Sort of the broader implications of education. There is overwhelming data that shows that stress related to poverty is a much better predictor of student success than teacher effectiveness. Please explain how your education policy is supported by this data.
Who asked that question? Okay. So just so I understand the question. Okay. So the issue of poverty is causing people not to be able to excel at education. Is that? If you could, I do want to understand the question.
I'm a middle school teacher, so
okay.
I'm talking about public education, and I think the main problem with student success is not teacher effectiveness, although that is a minor issue. Not for me, of course.
Present company excluded.
But I think poverty is a much bigger effect, and I see that every day.
And that's okay. So So now, I appreciate that, because I was thinking higher education, you were talking to public school. And teacher effectiveness, obviously, you touched on, is an issue that is part of the equation. There's numerous studies out
Well,
there.
I see a very large
Yeah.
push to evaluate teachers.
To go after teachers.
But I don't see an equal push to.
Well, and to go to the students and the parents and to the whole concept of what's going to move the needle. So I agree with you on the sense of we need to move the needle by focusing on where we really can make a difference. You know, teachers is one of them, because if you get one bad apple in there, there's numerous studies. There's a couple Harvard studies out there that puts a kid behind by like 3 or 4 grades, and they never get out of the equation. So that has to be dealt with. So that has to be dealt with, but that's not the issue. That's not the issue at hand. So the point you raised about poverty is obviously if a kid doesn't have the home life, doesn't have the nutrition to go to school, they're going to have an issue. And so how do you get to that? So then that goes back to something we, I think, all agree on in this room. If we give people a job, if we can grow the economy and get people back to work, that's going to help out a great deal, in my opinion, to those kids, because then their home life will be improved because their economic condition improves. And you get them out of that poverty trap, and you get them out of that situation. So that's why we focus on the economy also, is a related benefit to that. I'm interested in hearing from you, because you're on the front line. What do you think we can do in that situation? I mean, because sometimes some people say, well, we need to just go in as the government and take a kid and just say, okay, this is not a good environment for you, and put them out there. That's a very dangerous slope, and that's but how do you do it?
Well, I'm not saying you have to solve poverty, because I don't think that's really possible. But there is no data that shows that there are effects of poverty that can be counteracted. And a lot of these have to do with programs that we have that I believe we should put a lot more money into. For example, universal daycare. Another is parent programs to train parents. I just think there are a lot of really good programs that the federal government.
And I appreciate that, and that's the input that we're looking for. And that's why we love doing these town halls. So let's continue to talk, because we got your name here.
Yes.
So let's continue to talk, see if there's ideas that we can implement as we go forward.
Food in schools.
How about not putting Head Start with the
Yeah.
senior station?
I like Head Start.
And this is the priority question. This is the priority question, okay? I mean, that's what we gotta have the conversation on, and it's a hard conversation. Because just as many people who are gonna defend Head Start are gonna defend Pell Grants, they're gonna defend other areas of spending. But when you have the debt crisis that I believe we have, we're facing, this is a conversation we need to have. And what I always look at, because this is a common refrain that I hear in Washington, and that's one of my biggest frustrations for the first years I've been there, is if you throw more money at it, you solve the problem.
Head Start's proven.
Well, okay, and I'm taking Head Start off the out of this conversation. Head Start's out of this conversation. It's a
But it's on
fundamental
the chopping block.
It's a fundamental discussion and philosophical issue that I face in Washington that I think we have to deal with openly and honestly. And that is throwing money at it the solution?
Yeah.
Money? Well, if that was the case, we would have the best student rates, the best performance in all the schools, because we spend more money on our students in America than any other country in the world.
Head Start.
Head Start, that's the panacea. That's going to take care of it all.
Does real
well.
well. It does real well.
So if that's the end of then I'm surprised that Head Start hasn't been expanded by a million people. I think it's part of the
It
solution.
hasn't been expanded because of budget cutters.
Okay.
Sir, the
We
factual
got it, we
claims
have-
are wrong. The poverty is not the issue in education. The main issue, and the research is very, very clear, is family disintegration and fatherlessness, and even on Head Start. The research is very clear. Head Start has not helped much over the long run.
That's a great point.
It's a very expensive babysitting service. It does very little for education. But the issue is family disintegration, fatherlessness. Those are by far the most salient factors in social pathology and bad education.
I appreciate that input.
Jobs would help with that.
Thank you. I had to come down to make sure you see me, but it was 10 minutes to be ready. My name is Reverend Olivia Armstrong.
Hi, Reverend.
How you doing? I have a PhD in streetology, so I get
These are the people I love talking to. These are the people everybody in Washington should listen
And
to.
I'm also a graduate from Adelphi School of Social Work, okay? I have a Reiki master's degree. Are you familiar with that? Reiki master, okay, well that might help that Obamacare. Now, I might have a solution to help you with an issue with Obamacare, okay? Now, this goes to the farmers, okay? I had Miss Joanne Green call me at 7:30 this morning. You gave her this big award for what she's doing and helping local farmers, okay? When I came here after taking care of my parents for 2.5 years, I went to her, and she didn't know me from Adam or Eve, okay? She helped me, okay? I helped her with her farming. I helped pick some of her vegetables and different things like that. She helped me gave me money in return to find an apartment here, okay? So, to my understanding, you have the SNAP program. So, at first, I was on the SNAP program, but now I have nothing to do with it due to this young lady that you gave the award to back there, okay, who helped people, okay, to do farming, okay? You cut that program. You cut the SNAP program,
Not out of existence.
okay? But you did cut it,
Okay,
okay?
because of the.
Okay, but I'm trying to give you a solution to Obamacare, because if you keep that program in and together, if we get Fresh Festival, we have local farmers here who do an excellent job, okay? I mean, I don't hear you talking anything about them, okay? Because if our food is not healthy, you might as well forget about Obama, because we're all gonna die. You know what I'm saying? So that should be one of your major issues, okay? Is the farmers and having healthy food to eat, okay? So I was able to sustain myself because I have my PhD in streetology. Even I'm also a reverend too. So I just want to let you know, Obamacare, I understand that's a big issue and stuff like that. But if you want to start solving it, you need to help the locals. You need to help the local farmers. I know you probably helping the big ones, but what about her? She saved my life. So by her saving my life, I was able to affect 500 people. By me being able to sustain myself because of the award, because you approved of that organization. You gave me some award again. Put it out. See it, okay?
You did very well.
Yeah, you approved of it.
It works.
And I affected 500 people, so you can't be cutting, you can't cut. We need them.
Amen. Amen. I'm in the choir and I am singing along.
Don't sing along, be along and do something.
And do something. Amen. Amen.
Money.
And obviously, we didn't talk about the local farmers, and we can get into that issue. I mean, those are near and dear to us. I spent a whole day yesterday on a dairy farm right up in Ontario County. That is the heart of our district, and local farmers and ag policy. That's why we supported the farm bill when it first came.
So she can write to you and get a grant to help people to sustain themselves like me and others.
See, now this program is something that we can see the results of, talking to you, Reverend, and seeing what you did with it. And seeing what you did with it. You pulled yourself out. You pulled yourself up.
Food stamps.
And so no one is talking. I'm not talking about saying no to food stamps. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying we are having a debt crisis. We are going to have this conversation. And what we're talking about is how do we help people through that crisis situation, just like you. Just like you.
That's right.
And how do we get other people to do what you did?
Because you helped her.
I helped her, and then she helped you, and then you helped yourself.
Yeah.
And you helped yourself, and that's what we need to duplicate. And that's what I firmly believe in. It's the old adage, Reverend, it's the old adage that the street smart that I was taught young. You give a man a fish, you feed him for a day. You teach a man to fish, you feed him and his family for a lifetime.
So keep that
That's the
door
trick.
opportunity open. That's what I'm saying. Keep that door open so she can help more like
And that's exactly where we're willing to partner up, work with people, demonstrate what works, and go from there.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Reverend. No, it's always time.
I think there's a lot of folks that want to talk about natural gas.
Okay.
Yes, that's usually what we want to talk about all of our town meetings. We have a couple, actually, some really good questions on this, some very specific questions. questions, obviously with broader topic of natural gas exploration in the state, and then some particular questions about your actions on the issue. So first and foremost, we'll get, the lady wanted to go local, so we'll go as local as we can get. Do you support the repowering of the Ithaca power plant with natural gas? Why? If the plant is closed, is there any federal aid for Lansing, schools in particular, but also relief for property tax payers?
This is, first of all, I 100% support the repowering application. We put our position into the public record. I talked to Gary Brown from the PSC. I expressed my concerns about this project, as well as the one in Ithaca County. That's in a very similar situation, the energy facility. These are local jobs. These are significant jobs. These are also representative of the tax base of these communities that if pulled out would be devastating. And the second question gets to what happens after it pulls out. And there is not a clear path right now in dealing with that. That's why we are working to make sure that these are repowered and remain part of the energy portfolio of New York State. And I'll tell you, it is very frustrating, to have this conversation and have folks, talk about things that are just not in the cards right now. I know folks that weighed in at the Lansing plant, energy plan about alternatives and renewables, and those are all good things. But the reality of what we're facing with on these projects, on these situations, is what are we going to do today? That's why in all of the above energy policy, as I started in the beginning, is critical to our future. And that's why alternative renewables are part of that policy, but fossil fuels also have to be a part of it. And we have the natural gas reserves that we have here in America that are being developed across America, regardless of how you feel about it. In New York State, you got states like California, you got states like Illinois, you got states like Ohio, Pennsylvania, that are moving forward with it. California, Monterey Shale, embracing it, saying let's do it safely, let's do it responsibly, and move forward on it. So I know, you know my position on it. It's been very clear. I support the development of natural gas as long as it's done safely and responsibly. That is something that we have been, that position has been from the first time we studied this issue and came to the conclusion, and it will not change because I've never seen any data that I've accepted to the contrary. Because you're going to have all the other data, and I know Dr. Garvey and I don't know Dr. Howard, they're here, but I also know Dr. Kathleen and others are, but that's an interesting debate going on in this institution right now in their department. But so that's where we're at with it, and I know it's a divisive issue. I do recognize, just so we're all clear, I do recognize the exemption for the Finger Lakes, the position there, and the state taking this determination, but it's not for the reasons that a lot of people take that position. Because a lot of people say, well, you need to do that because of the threats to the aquifer. What I'm mainly concerned about there, as we talk about the aquifer issue and all the other things, is that we're not focusing on one of the things that's unique to the Finger Lakes. On top of the beauty of the lake, on the top of the lake itself, is the tourism microeconomy that is around the lake. And how are you going to have these two uses made compatible? And that I don't think has been adequately answered, and that's why we supported that exemption. Okay. Let's get into it.
Follow-up question to that?
I want to clarify, I have a couple questions that touched on one. Yeah, and obviously we're going to talk more about fracking. What kind of support are you pushing to fund renewable energy, particularly solar? You talked about all the above approach. What actions exist?
We have the biggest one, being on Ways and Means. We have supported the production tax credit. We believe that is part of the all of the above approach that we should be enhancing, and we're very supportive of that. And that is very helpful in making sure that we move forward on the alternatives and renewables. So that's probably the best example I can give in response to that question.
You are the co-chair of the Congressional Natural Gas Caucus. It says coalition in the caucus. Caucus that recently held a hearing on fracking in Pennsylvania. Who paid for the hearing? Why did none of the speakers address the negative impacts, including cancellation of homeowners' insurance and inability to get mortgages?
Yeah, the hearing was Oh, sorry.
What would you say to constituents who asked how the $45,000 you got from oil and gas interests from April to June, I'm assuming that's from your FEC report, influenced your staff?
Yeah. Well, first on the conference that we had, the Natural Gas Caucus had in Williamsport, Glenn Thompson hosted us down there with Tom Marino in Pennsylvania, in Williamsport, and we toured a rig right after it. It was part of the field hearing. I believe those came out of our, I think the manufacturing caucus budget. I think that was, we appeared just on our own. I have to double check that. I'll have to double check that. I don't know the answer to that. I know we, Glenn took care of it, and Tom Marino did.
taxpayers pay.
Oh yeah, but that's the question. That's the question. Obviously, it was an official event. We were there in our official capacity, and taxpayers would have paid for that event. And what it was designed to do, because it was held at the college there, it was designed to focus on the issue of natural gas development and matching up our skill sets in the communities to put the skill sets and the workers in conjunction with the economic development of the resource. So that was the primary purpose of the caucus, and also to talk about the economic development impacts of it. We did touch upon some of the concerns that were raised, that have been raised and will be raised with natural gas development. But on the issue of these in particular, I don't believe we got into that, and I don't recall any of the questions or the testimony or anything like that part of that.
Are you aware of those issues?
Yeah, I am aware of those issues, and that is something that we're concerned with, and we've also reached out to other states to see where that's coming from. And I know Tompkins Trust Company, I'm familiar with them, and they made a board decision to go down that path, but I haven't heard that from other lending institutions. And so we're reaching out to other lending institutions to say, Bank of America, the local banks, M&T, and the others, to see, are you also doing what Tompkins Trust is doing? Because I think maybe Tompkins Trust is influenced by the nature of their clientele and customer base in Tompkins County, which is obviously very opposed to the development of this natural gas. Yes. And so.
I'll call your attention to
Sure.
people in Washington County, Pennsylvania, who are actually denied a mortgage, not by Tompkins Trust, because there was actually a gas well across the street.
Yeah, that's interesting.
That's
So
new.
what we'll do.
Homeowners were denied homeowners insurance in Madison County just recently because they had actually conventional gas. So this is great, and I think Tompkins County was out in front, as Tompkins County often is, in thinking about these things. I don't think that Tompkins Trust is being conservative. They are calling attention to Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, and HUD policies.
Yeah, and those haven't changed, and that's my point. That's my point. And so what we're interested in, because you have some data there, what we'll do is we will track down those people and talk to them, because that's one thing we do. We had this at town halls where, they had an individual invite us to their family farm in northern Pennsylvania, say, you gotta see how the farm is. You gotta come down to Pennsylvania, you'll never come. And we went, and we talked. And we talked to the owner of the farm, her father and her, and we spent the day there, and we studied that, and we talked to people. So I appreciate that input, and then we'll follow up with those institutions too, to see what's going on, and hopefully those individuals will waive on any of their proprietary stuff and all that stuff, so that we can talk to the institutions, because a lot of times when we've had this question in other institutions, they're like, Tom, we really can't talk about it, because there were other things in those decision-making processes that caused the denial, and this wasn't the primary thing, this is just something we put in there. And we've had those conversations too, so.
I represent an organization called Fleece, F-L-E-A-S-E-D, that a ton of people who signed gas leases before they knew about fracking. And we've been tracking a lot of these issues, so our website has some information on that.
That'd be great.
What's the website, ma'am?
The final question is, how does the fact that you get a lot of money from the oil and gas interest?
Yes. And that's the question we were gonna get to, and I would assume it's part of that. So hopefully we took care of the first part of the question. And, this is gonna be raised time and time again. If someone gives to our campaign, it's because they give to our campaign. My positions have been and will continue to be those positions that I come to after taking input from the people of the district, primarily, studying the issue, looking at various reports, and then coming to an informed position because I have to take a position on the issues. So it's irrelevant to me who gives and what they give. What is relevant to me is what is the nature of the decision that we're making, and when I come in front of people, like we do, to be held accountable, I tell you what my position is and why. And when I look at this issue, and studying the issue, looking at what conversation with Lisa Jackson, the head of the EPA, talked to her offline, no cameras, none of that. They said, listen, explain to me where I'm wrong. Explain to me where an aquifer has been contaminated with hydraulic fracturing fluid. I want to know where that is. And you know what Lisa Jackson said? Hasn't happened, Tom.
Oh, my God.
That's the head of the EPA. You can bring it up with Lisa Jackson, call her, talk to her. She's no longer the head of the EPA. But she said that's not what happened. Now, the methane migration issue is an issue. Absolutely. It has to be mitigated, has to be dealt with. But hydraulic fracturing fluid migrating into the aquifer, okay, that hasn't happened. And that's what a lot of folks are out there who are so concerned that, and they're so afraid of this issue, think that that's what's going to happen, is that somehow all this fluid is going to leak into the aquifer, it's going to migrate into the aquifer, it's going to destroy the aquifer for generations to come. And in my opinion, the data is just not there.
Can I ask you a question that gets back to the issue of the debt and industrialization of
Yeah.
America, make it here, sell it there?
Yeah.
Recently, the president of Dow Chemical has criticized the natural gas industry for the fact that they want to export all this gas to places like our friends in China. And when they do that, their goal is that they can sell it for 10 times the price in China, but it will screw the United States of America. And the position of the head of Dow Chemical, which is one of the largest users of natural gas in America, says this will completely undermine the reindustrialization of America. And the Dryden Town Board, of which I'm a member, passed a resolution Thursday night saying that we were against the gasification of the coal power plant, partly because the instability of the price of natural gas makes it untenable and a threat to the economy, not a plus for the local jobs. And by the way, when we spend money on the Lansing school system, we raise the cost of doing business in New York State. And you, of all people, should know that that hurts business. So in your very important position on that gas committee, what is your position about what the president of Dow Chemical has suggested? Should we be putting money and permitting export facilities for natural gas?
Great question. Now, first of all, just as you're questioning my credibility and other things, personal motives and all those things, I do question, Dow Chemical president, why is he taking that position? I've asked the question of Dow Chemical and others, why are you so afraid of this? Well, because, as you said, as you know, they are one of the largest users of natural gas and its components for the plastic industry.
Well, he said that right up
So
front.
they have a personal interest in the position that they're taking.
He wasn't trying to hide that. That was-
Okay, well, sometimes they do. And I always ask the question when they come in to talk to me, they say, Tom, this is just bad policy.
And what are the interests of the gas industry in exporting the gas? They just want to make money.
I understand. So I'm just saying how I treat people who come in, is I try to have an honest conversation with them.
But are you saying that you deny the effect of $12, maybe the $2, $3 price that's making us drive toward gas for the Cayuga power plant is not what's going to happen if you support permitting all of those facilities that the natural gas industry is asking you to do because they just want to make money. They don't actually care about the United States.
Disagree with that. When I look at the Bipartisan Policy Center did a report, I directed to it, that looked at the long-term pricing of natural gas, $12, given the supply of natural gas that we're uncovering and continuing to uncover in North America, that is something that is in none of the projections that I have seen.
That's not
Now,
true.
at $3 to $4 a BTU, that is probably low. Will it go up? Probably, and I accept that. But it's not going to go to $12, and it's not going to be this instability spike up and down, because this is a reserve that we have control of, and it's in our backyard. Now, the issue of exports. Okay. Because I'm a free trader in my heart, I do believe in free trade, free, fair trade enforced, on the same level playing field. The export issue gets very slippery when it comes to those policy issues. Because if we're gonna be true, free trade, fair trade participants, we gotta recognize that we're on the world economic stage and we need to have this conversation. I am open to the issue, and we're working and trying to study this issue of putting a fee on that natural gas that ultimately